Greetings and welcome to Calm Clear Conversations. I'm Christopher Johnson with Calm Clear Communications. And with me today is the Rachel Simon.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Rachel, how are you?
I'm great. It's a beautiful
All right.
day here in Atlanta.
Want to trade?
No.
So in Metro Detroit, the forecast did include snow on May 2nd. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just that's just uncool. It's just not cool.
I
Go away,
agree with you
snow.
completely. I agree with you completely. And yeah, that is pretty much what I said.
Yeah. I mean, get with the program weather. It's May. It's supposed to be at least sunny and nice out and not snowing.
Exactly. But aren't you supposed to sing "It's Gonna Be May"?
It's gonna be May.
I see that meme every year.
I know.
Uh,
And it's like it's such a silly little meme, but it's so entertaining. So
wait, entertainment. So that could be a component of content.
definitely, for sure.
Okay. So uh, we are here today to talk about content and why and how and what and all that. And yeah, it's a content talk.
I love talking about content. It's
Okay.
such a fun topic, and there is never a lack of things to talk about as far as content is concerned.
Now, but before we dive deeply into content, what is your background? How did you get where you are? What is your origin story?
Sure. Well, for your viewers who don't know who I am, I'm a LinkedIn trainer and consultant. I've been doing this for going on almost 8 years. Uh, More around 5.5, specifically focused on LinkedIn. So my background is in nonprofit. I worked in nonprofit organizations here in Atlanta for 15 years, did a lot in community outreach, event planning, marketing. I ended up, my last role, I launched a social media strategy for my agency. And then I went out on my own and started doing marketing consulting, got brought into a client that ended up needing a lot of help specifically on LinkedIn. And I kind of fell in love with LinkedIn working with this one client and decided to focus solely on helping professionals utilize all of the amazing tools that the platform has to offer. And here we are.
Okay.
Ta-da.
Oh no, and so you come from a marketing background, and content is really one of the building blocks of marketing, or cornerstone.
Yes, definitely. And you know, bringing that up, it's where I felt like in my old role at the organization where I work, we were missing an opportunity. So this was in the early 2010s. I don't know how we are supposed to refer to that decade. Uh, Social media was pretty new, pretty scary, and unknown for lots of uh, organizations, companies. There was a big fear factor of kind of putting content out there, opening comments up, the fear of what if people say something negative? What do we do? And I, really kind of pitched the idea that we can't sit on the sidelines, right? You have to start sharing content. And I worked for a nonprofit that did amazing work and still does amazing work here in Atlanta. So many amazing stories to share about, you know, outcomes that clients have had, services that they offer, why people should volunteer, why should they donate. If you don't share those stories, people don't know, right? So social media platforms, whether that is Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, great place. LinkedIn takes it up a notch. I personally don't consider LinkedIn to be social media. I think it's a networking event. It's a networking tool. You don't go to a networking event and stand in the corner. Why did you come? You came to talk to people. So the way we talk to people, one of the ways we talk to people on LinkedIn is by sharing content and engaging in other people's content.
Okay. And one of the things that stood out in stories, I mean, no matter where you go, stories are what connect us. Either
Absolutely.
something good happened, something bad happened. Something happened. You know,
Yes. And that's how you can really build that relatability and those points of connection with people by telling stories, sharing an experience that you had, talking about things that you love that make you you,
mhm.
not in a Facebook way, but in a LinkedIn way. So to me, the LinkedIn way of doing things like that is what are the lessons that you learn from these things? So I will share a recent example of this. Uh, you may or may not know that I'm a very big Taylor Swift fan. I went to her concert in Atlanta Saturday night. It was absolutely amazing. I can't stop thinking about it. Wow. Anyway, I did a post about it on Sunday. And in my post, I talked about takeaways that I got from the experience, about how she surprises and delights her fans, how she, exceeds expectations, how she makes mistakes. She forgot the lyrics to one of her songs in the show, and it was hilarious and adorable. It makes her like a real person, right? So, what are the things that I learned from the experience of going to her concert? So, it is not just about, hey, look, I went to the Taylor Swift show, but it was these are things that I can see and apply in the way I interact with my clients, my network, this, that, and the other. So, what are the lessons that we can learn and share a story about ourselves?
Okay. So we should always have an eye on what what did I do and how does this apply, or what did I learn and how can I share this so it applies to my business, my clients, the people I want to interact with, engage with.
My audience, right?
My
Or my
audience,
network, my
yeah.
community. It's really all of those things. And those are actually three different things: your network, your audience, and your community. There's like Venn diagram things happening there.
Okay.
Um, your network is everybody sort of in your LinkedIn world. A piece of that is going to be your audience, because not everybody in your network is necessarily going to be interested in what you're talking about, right? Because we just build our network from lots of different places. But your community is really that powerful subset of people who get you, know you, like you, love you, adore you, want to work with you, want to refer you, and just, want to engage and interact with you. So that's sort of the way I would think about those
Okay.
different
Now,
groups.
do you have to pick one, or I mean,
I don't think so.
okay.
I think when you're thinking about content, it's always good to think about who am I writing this for?
Hmm.
Because sometimes you do want to get kind of throw out a broad net that would be a little bit more wide. And then other times you do need to niche down and really speak specifically to your target market, your target audience who need what you have to offer.
Okay. Now, you mentioned back in the early days of the internet, people were afraid of, visibility. What do you think holds people back now?
They're still afraid. It's not, I don't think it's fear of the visibility, because companies, organizations, nonprofits, small businesses, they know you need eyes on you to achieve your goals. It's the fear is now more, we've been on these platforms for more than a decade now. And we see that sometimes they can be overwhelming, intimidating. Not everybody is plays nice in the sandbox. So I think there's a fear factor of, what will people think? What if nobody likes my post? What if I come across and I sound silly? What if nobody sees my post? So all of these what ifs, right? Like the what ifs start circulating in your brain, and that ends up becoming a barrier to actually just doing it.
Okay.
Every post isn't going to be a winner. They're not all going to land. It's fine. I mean, we all have content that I'm sure this happens to everybody. It happens to me. You can tell me if it happens to you, where especially the posts where you're like, this is going to be a great one. I love this piece of content. You work really hard on it, and then like nobody engages with it. It's always the stuff that you do like on a whim that ends up blowing up. But it's okay if your post doesn't land, you figure out, well, what was it? Could I rewrite it? Was it the right time? Did I post it at a time when my audience network community wasn't around to engage with it? Was it the wrong format? Like maybe I should try it with a photo, or maybe I should talk about it in a video. So you can always learn from those things, but just sitting on the sidelines is not going to get you in front of the people that need to see you and need to understand and learn from you and what you're all about.
Now, what about a complaint that I've heard is people not wanting to post something they posted? Meaning, I posted something once, and well, why would I ever talk about that topic again?
Yeah. How many times do you see a commercial for, I don't know why this popped into my head, because I think it's probably because their jingle's so catchy right now, but like Burger King, right? You watch TV and you're going to see a Burger King commercial constantly. Or right now during baseball season, we're a big baseball family, so we're always watching the Atlanta Braves, and every other commercial is a commercial for Truist Bank. I mean, they repeat it because you have to repeat yourself constantly to get in front of your customers. The beauty we have on LinkedIn is we can repeat our message, but we don't have to do the exact same commercial over and over and over and over again like they do on TV. We can take that message and finesse it, tweak it, massage it, and use it in different ways. So we can take that piece of content and change the format, change the way we just talk about it, reorder it. There's so many different ways you can change it, but you're talking about the same thing. I talk about LinkedIn 80% of the time because that's what I do. If I didn't talk about it, then how would my clients know how to work with me? So if you didn't talk about, facilitating events and online events and things of that nature, nobody would know that when they're doing a Zoom webinar that they need to talk to you, so you can make sure it goes off without a hitch. You have to repeat yourself. And the beauty of LinkedIn is we don't get those memories like you do on Facebook. Now they're delightful on Facebook. I actually sent one to my daughter today from when she was 3. They're hilarious. We don't get those on LinkedIn. So you're not going to see what someone in your network posted 6 months ago, a year ago. And the newsfeed moves pretty quickly. So within a week, it's going to be completely different. No one's going to remember what you posted 6 months ago. So you're actually doing yourself a disservice by not repeating and repurposing your content.
Okay. So when people ask, well, what do I post? One source could be, what have I posted in the past? Looking at that, seeing either what worked, what didn't, what can be reconfigured.
Absolutely. And, I kind of call that what's your evergreen content? So that content that is consistently relevant, right? It might need a little changing here and there based on what, trends in the industry, but for the most part, it's going to be relevant no matter what. So using that evergreen content and just weaving that into your content strategy is really helpful, but also thinking broadly. Every year in May, we have Mother's Day. We all have mothers. Hopefully, our mothers are still with us. If they're not, we miss our mothers terribly. You can talk about your mother or Mother's Day, or if you are a mother or whatever the case may be, or maybe Mother's Day is a really hard day for you and you could talk about that. But that happens every single year. So that should be a piece in your content strategy every single year. The winter holidays happen every single year. July 4th happens every single year. Those kind of national or international things that are consistent on the calendar are easy pieces of content to use and to talk about year after year after year, because they're going to keep happening.
Okay. That's true. So yeah, and there, as you said, there's nothing like uh, Facebook memories on LinkedIn. So we have to do that, uh, excavating the evidence uh, on our own. We have to look back and see what we posted to see what we can repurpose.
Correct. You can actually pull that from your data download. So I can drop this in the chat um, after we're done today. But
Okay.
if you go to where you request a copy of your data on LinkedIn, and if you don't know that you can do that, you can. You can basically pull everything from the entire, like your entire time on the platform. One of the files, if you pull the full download,
Hmm.
is called shares. You get them all as CSV files. You'll get them in 2 big zip files. I think the shares one comes in the second dump of your, download. That is everything you've ever posted on LinkedIn. Now, it's a big spreadsheet. It's a little overwhelming. However, you can search by keywords. So I'll use Mother's Day as the example. You can do a, Control F, look and find Mother's Day, and it will find those posts that you talked about, Mother's Day or Christmas or New Year's or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
It's by date. So you can sort by date. So December 25th is always Christmas. You can find if you posted on December 25th or 24th. New Year's Day is always the January 1st. You can find those posts pretty easily. It's just a really, really helpful tool to grab. I go back and look at mine a fair amount when I'm kind of searching for a post from the past that
Mhm.
I was like, I think I posted this around this time. And it's just a good resource to hang on to. And then you can always pull that content out, put those in, other files, however you like to organize your content, whether it's in Excel files or in Google, your Google Drive or Word or whatever the case may be. But it's a really, really helpful tool.
Okay. Wow. I knew about downloading your LinkedIn data. So it's a great place to, hey, I have X number of contacts. I don't want to lose them because I don't own the data. LinkedIn owns the data. So you should back it up on a regular basis. Okay.
Definitely.
But wow, everything you've ever posted. So you can see, I love that. I'm going to start doing that. How often should a layperson do this?
I think something like that, maybe twice a year. I
Okay.
mean, you could do it quarterly if you felt the need, but I would say, maybe January and June or something like that, grab it, just resave your file, or because it's really big. And again, if you're going to be creating content, it's only going to get larger.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. And that,
But
yeah.
it's a great resource, because creating content it's a lot of work. So anything we can do to make it easier, make the lift lighter, uh, is really, really helpful. And then you just have that to utilize and figure out, how can I weave this into my content plan.
Okay. And yeah, because it's just going to grow over time. So it really is. And see, this sounds like my old IT background. Back up often. If it's
Yeah.
important, back it up. So you're just keeping that iterative backup.
Yeah, I think yes, that's a good way of thinking about it. Plus, it's kind of entertaining to go back and look at your really early stuff on LinkedIn. I mean, and I would say
Mhm.
entertaining slash cringy, maybe. uh, what was funny is when I did this, I looked, and in the first 5 years that I was on LinkedIn, so I joined, I think, in 2010. I posted 50 times in 5 years.
Okay.
So like, 10 posts a year. and which I just find to be amusing. And the posts were very, were horrible. They were, because we didn't know what we were doing back then. I mean, there were some pioneers, I think, who really knew how to leverage LinkedIn from the start. I was definitely not one of those people. So going back and looking at the original, like my old posts, is pretty amusing. But for me, I really kicked it off in high gear in like late 2019. So in late 2019, that's when my content, 10x
Okay.
big time.
Now, what are the components of a good post?
You got to have a good hook. You got to get somebody to want to read more. So I saw one recently. Hi, LinkedIn family. I mean, it's just unnecessary words, right? We want to be, what is the hook that's going to get people to want to read more, and not in a gamey way. I'm also not a big fan of the, some sort of baity first line with a bunch of white space. I don't like, that's not my style. Start your post off with a good intro that's going to get somebody to want to read it, and then deliver the meat of your post, and then close with a call to action. So that call to action could be a question for your, for your audience, for them to respond to in the comments. Like, have you ever had this experience? If so, please, share your story. It might be a call to action that's going to benefit you and your business. So, subscribe to my emails, or here's a assessment you can take to see how you're doing with X, Y, or Z. But closing with something that's going to give your audience, the reader, something to do. Now, they may or may not do it, but it gives some direction on, you read my post and now please do this. And then add 3 to 5 hashtags that are going to be relevant to your post.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of different advice as far as hashtags are concerned. That seems to be the consensus from a lot of the LinkedIn training world, is 3 to 5. Don't get too, cutesy. I don't like them to be too cutesy. Sometimes, like on Instagram, they're kind of cutesy, because the purpose of them is so that people will see your content if they're searching for certain hashtags on LinkedIn. So one pretty broad is good. You could kind of pick one that has a slightly smaller following. And then I actually do encourage people to create a personal hashtag. So like mine is Rachel Recommends. Do you have one?
Not yet.
Not yet. What's nice about it is that you can use if you have a personal hashtag, you're not going to have a huge, like mine doesn't have a ton of followers. I think I have like 150, but I can search for, hashtag Rachel Recommends, and I can see all my content.
Okay.
Populate. But you always have to make sure no one is using that. Before you start with a personal hashtag, you have to check it first to make sure no one's using it. So the story I have with that is, I wanted to do Simon Says. I did a search for Simon Says, and someone you might have heard of uses that. His name is Simon Sinek. So I was like, I probably shouldn't use that one.
Okay. Now, connecting this with something that you said earlier, the audience is composed of the network, the community, and the third one was?
It was network, audience, community.
Network, audience, community. Okay. So broad, narrower, and targeted. Should those hashtags follow that same thing? Something broad, a little bit more narrow, and targeted, and a personal one. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good approach for sure. And that's a good way to kind of connect it right to those 3 levels of people on LinkedIn. I like that a lot.
Me too. See, I'm learning stuff. That's always good. Now, what do you think the trend will be going forward for LinkedIn content creation, connection, all of this?
Well, we definitely cannot talk about content without addressing, AI tools. So there is definitely a place for those, various tools like a chat GPT, things of that nature. That place, in my opinion, is not to write your content for you, but to help with uh, inspiration, structure, kind of getting the ball rolling. So, how can we? I mean, I don't use a lot of the AI tools myself. I have used them to help generate outlines. I think they can be really, really helpful for outlines. Um, but we have to find that balance between content that is actually ours and our, thoughts, and using these different AI tools to help expedite content creation. So I think it's going to sort of figuring out how do we balance those in our content strategy. Because I do think that if people like kind of way too heavily on the AI and depend on that to write all of their content, we're going to see a lot of generic content coming out, that doesn't, because to your earlier point, a great way of connecting with our network audience community is by storytelling. Well, ChatGPT can't tell stories for us. Only we can tell those stories.
That's a good thing, though.
Right. Yes.
Only we are the only people who can tell our own stories.
Right.
Okay.
So maybe it's a balance of the AI tools do some of the boring stuff, right? They do the dry piece of content, but then we're infusing our personality and our stories into it. But I think that's where if I had to guess, I think that's where we're going to see content going.
Okay.
Changes in the way content is created by people taking advantage of some of these tools that are very helpful and can really help expedite the process.
Okay. Um, and see, all right, going back, you know, a decade or so on the platform, we just weren't generating stories, we weren't generating content, and engagement requires content. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, thinking back to the early days, it was so much more surrounding, job job seekers,
Mm,
right? Getting in front of potential roles. Again, there were the trailblazers out there that were, leveraging all of the various tools possible to be creating content. But, again, when I look back at my early content, it was really pushing out stuff about like the organization I worked for. Like, oh, congratulations about our annual meeting. Oh, here we have an event coming up. It was not anything personal. And I do think that the tide started to turn in late 2019. And then obviously the pandemic really exacerbated that for in a good way. And because we were so starved for, connection and being around each other, a lot of people turn to LinkedIn to be building those relationships and creating these communities through their content. I don't think we're going to go back to the days of the dry case studies and white papers, which is a good thing because those are not super fun to read. They serve a purpose, but
they
that's
do.
what LinkedIn used to be, just a bunch of, boring content. I think there are some people that think it's a little bit too much on the personal side. But, I think it'll ebb and flow somewhere in that midline area, I think.
Okay. So a personal slash professional, because hey, at the end of the day, we're still all people and people connect with people through stories, through content, through, we feel something when a post, I think a lot of times makes us feel something. Wow, I had that experience too. Oh, now I know why this. Uh, comedian.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
And thinking about in like the real world, if you go to a networking event or some sort of professional event, you don't go in and just like launch into uh, a monologue about what you do. You make small talk. You talk about the weather. You talk about your local sports team or, what's for lunch. I mean, you're just talking about stuff, like human stuff that people chit chat about. The business conversations come later. So, I think that we forget that sometimes some people, again, the fear factor comes in where, oh, well, it's LinkedIn's this, I have to be professional. I have to just only talk about work. Well, when you're even at work at the office, do you only talk about work? I sure didn't when I worked in an office. I talked about all kinds of things. Uh, my kids, what I was watching on TV, what I did on the weekend. I mean, we talk about things with our coworkers, with our customers that make us human, right? So we have to show that side of our personality because people are not going to work with people they don't know. It's the know, like, and trust factor, right? So we're building that through our
Right.
content.
Okay. This has been really helpful. Thank you very much. Now, how should people reach out and connect with you?
You can reach out and connect with me on LinkedIn. You can say, I saw you on Christopher's live stream. Uh, in your message, I just like to know where people come across me. So that makes it very helpful. And that's another little tip. If you're reaching out to somebody on LinkedIn that you seen on a live stream, heard on a podcast, met at an event, just pop it in a message so they know like where the connection is. It makes it so much easier for people than having to figure out who this person is and why are they reaching out.
Exactly. And here's, one of those rules: never pitch in the connection request. Just connect.
Yeah. Well, I will say I sometimes if people do pitch in the connection request, I actually appreciate that because I can know it's just an ignore from me. It's really when they make it like they really want to connect with me. And then once I hit accept, they pitch me in the DMs. That really bugs me. So let's just not pitch people at all on LinkedIn because
You
it's
know
just
what?
not fun. Don't do it.
I can agree with that.
Right.
When Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a rule, people. If you send me a connection request with a pitch in it, it's going to be a no from me every time.
that is good to know. And yeah, so connect with a note, not a pitch. Mention something that you learned, something that you can here's an idea that you can post once you watch this. Share something that you learned. Share a takeaway. Tag Rachel, tag myself. Share what share the impact.
Yep. I think that's always great is to, that's an easy piece of content right there.
Mhm.
You listen to a podcast, you watch a LinkedIn live, you attend an event, write a post that summarizes like here are my three takeaways from this. And the people who put that event on or the podcast host or whomever the case may be appreciates it. It's great content for you and it's pretty easy to generate, right?
Absolutely. And yes, one of the things that I'll be doing, I'll say this quarter, that gives me until July. I will download all of that data and go back through and it's like, wow, oh yeah, I can use this. And no, we don't want to see that one again.
Well, you got to figure out why did that one not work, right?
Yeah,
uh
yeah. But it is the process of just pushing publish. You got to
mhm.
do it.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be scary or unpleasant. So I like to say that if LinkedIn is like soul crushing, you should reassess your strategy. It should be fun. I've built relationships with people all over the country, all over the world. I mean, that
Absolutely.
is, and they're not just like, they're real. These are people that, like, I'm coming to New York this summer with my family, and there's a whole big meetup that's being planned for a bunch of people in the New York area. And we all know each other through LinkedIn. I mean, that's going to be
Yeah,
amazing. How fun is
it
that?
will. Absolutely. And I'm kind of jealous. So you have to
Come to
come to
New
Metro
York.
Detroit. Well, or yeah, we'll figure something out. Now, and going back to that, we have not met in person. We
No,
are connected through LinkedIn, and I believe it was Brenda that connected us.
correct. Yes.
So yeah, you were on one of her LinkedIn lives, or she was on one of yours, and
I was on hers. I've had the pleasure of being on with her a couple of times. We always have a fun time. She's coming to New York. I'm so excited to meet her in person.
she is an amazing individual.
Yes.
And so yeah, meeting people in this realm on LinkedIn that does form real, actual close friendships and connections. And hey, we've actually done business with one another also. So
Yes. Yeah. So, don't take your LinkedIn time for granted or think it's a waste of your time. I think that's the point to come across is you never know who can open a door for you. So, building relationships, showing up authentically as making sure people know what you do so that they can open the right door. You don't want them opening the wrong door for you. You want them opening the right door for you. And just like being a good digital citizen, engaging with other people's content, supporting people. It just is going to serve you so well with whatever your goals are. And they can be personal and professional.
and see, I like that. Be a good digital citizen. Now, and if somebody is feeling overwhelmed about all the content that is required to just exist, you can help them out with that, right?
Yes, I sure can. So feel free to reach out to me. I can help you out with that. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. There's ways of making it very simplifying it. It's not simple, but simplifying it so that it is achievable and you will actually do it, right? We don't want to, it's just like I use this analogy all the time, but we don't want to commit to something we can't sustain. So you don't go to the gym. It's better to go to the gym and say, I'm going to go 3 times a week and actually show up 3 times a week than say, I'm going every single day and you go every single day for 2 weeks. And then you're like, I can't do this anymore. And you don't show up again for 3 months. Start slow, set achievable goals, and then you can always increase.
Hmm. I think that applies to life as well.
For sure. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, Rachel, it has been an absolute delight. Thank you for uh, sharing your wisdom, and I look forward to another conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
Have a good rest.
Interested in learning more about any of the items that you've seen in today's session? Leave a comment below. Interested in being a guest? Leave a comment below. I help event planners and organizers produce virtual events. Learn how I can support your virtual event by connecting or leaving a comment. Thanks for watching.